August 2023 Auburn TownHallမှာကျွန်တော် CRPH and UG New South Wales Group ကနေစီစဉ်ကျင်းပတဲ့ဒေါက်တာမီမီဝင်းဘတ်နဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ညီကိုမောင်နှမများတွဲဆုံခြင်းခမ်းနားအစီအစဉ်ကိုကျွန်တော်တို့စတင်မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီခမ်းနားမှာကျွန်တော်ခမ်းနားမှုဖြစ်နိုင်အောင်နဲ့မတ်မွန်စင်ကနေကျွန်တော်တို့ပူးတဲ့ဆောင်ရွက်မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ခမ်းနားအစီအစဉ်မစတင်ခင်မှာကျွန်တော်တို့ခမ်းနားမှာရောက်ရှိလာတဲ့ညီကိုမောင်နှမများအနေနဲ့ mobile phone များကိုပိတ်ချင်းတော်၎င်း silent လုပ်ချင်းတော်၎င်းဖြင့်ကူညီပေးကြပြီးတော့အတန်အားဖြင့်လည်းထိမ့်သိမ်းပေးကြဖို့ပဏာမမေတ္တာရပ်ခံပါတယ်ခင်ဗျာတော့ခမ်းနားအစီအစဉ်တစ်ရာကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီနေ့အခမ်းအနားကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ဖွင့်လှစ်ကြောင်းကြေညာရပါတယ်ခင်ဗျာအခမ်းအနားအစီအစဉ်နေ့ရာဌာနေတိုင်းသားများကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ယူသေးလေးပေးခြင်းအပြင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ recognition ကိုမတ်မွန်စင်အားဆောင်ရွက်ပေးဖို့မေတ္တာခံပါတယ်ခင်ဗျာ
Today, I'd like to begin this program by paying my respect to the direct nation people of the land in which we are gathered here today. I pay my respect to their past, present, and emerging leaders of the Aborigines and Torres Islander people of the nation. Thank you very much.
Jesu de Mare, Ghana season 3 ရကျွန်တော်တို့ခေတ်ဆက်ဆက်ဒီမိုကရေစီတော်လှန်ရေးမှာကြာဆုံးသွားကြတဲ့ရဟန်းရှင်လူပြည်သူတိုင်းသားအားလုံးကိုကျွန်တော်တို့အလေးပြုခြင်းအပြင်ကျွန်တော်တို့10မိနစ်ငြိမ်သက်ခြင်းအစီအစဉ်ဖြစ်ပါတယ် So we're going to pay respect for the fallen heroes in the revolution. So I just request the audience to stand up for 1 minute silence. Hello, Jesus de Mare. Thank you. Kana season Leah Dr. Mimi Wimba biography of Pajabi General Mosing Peko.
Thank you, Vagunao. We are very, very lucky today to have Dr. Mimi Wynn with us, and then very fortunate to be able to quickly organize for this very important and meaningful event. So just want to read her very, all the reputable, many things that she has accomplished and achieved. So Dr. Mimi Wynn is an adjunct fellow where she is working on projects related to Myanmar. As civil affairs officer in the reserve, Dr. Byrd was mobilized in support of operations enduring freedom in 2003. While on active duty from 2003 to 2007, she served as the Deputy Economic Advisor, Civil Military Operations Plan Officer, and Interagency Operations Officer at U.S. Pacific Command. She has also served as a linguist and cultural advisor to the U.S. delegations attending the Associations of Southeast Asian Nationals Regional Forum, POW/MIA recovery negotiations in Myanmar, and Operation Caring Response to Cyclone Nargis. Prior to the mobilization, Dr. Byrd was the controller of the Law and Economic Consulting Group in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her 16 years of civilian professional experience included a wide range of auditing, accounting, and financial management positions with multinational corporations such as Gillette, General Telephones, and Electric TTE, and Ernst & Young's, and also with the Silicon Valley startup firm, Wisdom.com. Dr. Byrd is currently serving in the board of Pacific Gateway Center, the NEC Center for International and Strategic Studies at Claremont McKenna College, University of Hawaii Shidler, School of Business Center for the International Business and Education Research, and is president and chair of the managing committee of the Sue Foundation. Some of her publications include Why the U.S. Should Gender Its Counterterrorism Strategy in the Military Review Journal, Combating Terrorism, A Socio-Economic Strategy, and Combating Terrorism with Socio-Economics Leveraging the Private Sector. In Joint Force Quarterly, a professional military and security journal published for the chairman of Joint Chief of Staff by National Defense University, Dr. Byrd also served as the editor of the USPACOM's, I don't know how to USPACOM's Asia Pacific Economic Update publications. Dr. Byrd received a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Accounting from Claremont McKenna College and holds a Master of Business Administration with emphasis in Asia Pacific Economics and Business from University of Hawaii. She earned her doctorate in Education Leadership from University of Southern California. So with that, we'd like to welcome Dr. Byrd officially to our Sydney Myanmar community. Dr. Byrd, the floor is now yours.
Aloha, Minglava, and good day. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for reading my bio. It was a little bit too long. Well, when you live long enough, you have done a lot of stuff. So, I'm just overwhelmed by the attendance here, and thank you so much for your warm welcome here. And I heard that it was a little bit cold before, and now today is warm, and hopefully it was my Hawaiian sun that I brought with me that is warm up Sydney today. So I have been told I can speak in English, right? Because a lot of my interviews are in Burmese, and I always want to tell more, but I have a very limited vocabulary in Burmese. So today I'm hoping that I can expand a little bit more on some of the stuff that I have talked about in my interviews, which I didn't get a chance to talk because I just have a limited words. My Burmese is stuck at the 8th grade level because when my family immigrated to the United States when I was 8th grade, so it's stuck there. So anyways, again, I want to start my presentation. Well, I only have 30 minutes, right? Yeah. So I want to get to the good stuff. I want to start with a more of a larger strategic geopolitics context, and then we'll narrow down into Myanmar. Okay. And one of the reasons I want to do that is because last summer, I attended U.S. Australia Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue Conference in Honolulu, sponsored by East West Center, right? And I was invited, and I was on the panel, one of the panels, but I was asked about talking about Southeast Asia. But I sat there before my panel for 4 hours, and they talked a lot about, Taiwan. They talked a lot about, Pacific Islands, and they talked a lot about Ukraine. But 4 hours went by, nothing about Myanmar. They talk incessantly about Ukraine, but nothing about Myanmar. And this was supposed to be U.S. Australia Indo-Pacific Security Conference. And this is what Myanmar is creating, is all kinds of transnational security problems in the region, and then also geopolitics. And then come this week at the Australian Labour Party conference, right? 2 days, and they talked about Ukraine many times, Iran, Sudan, Cuba, never once about Myanmar, until our hero, Janelle, brought it up. Thank you, Janelle, for bringing that up. So what we have here is a strategic blind spot for the U.S. and the West and the rest. Strategic blind spot. And that's exactly what China wants the U.S. and the rest to be. So hopefully I can make that case for the audience here today. So next, please. So geographically, this is where Myanmar sits. So next click, just to show where Myanmar is, right there. Click one more time. So Myanmar is the only mainland Southeast Asian country that has direct border with China, right? Thailand doesn't have direct border. In order for you to go to Thailand, you have to go through Laos. So you have to go through 2 countries, and then that gets you to the western part of Malacca Strait, right? Myanmar is the only country with direct border with China that gets China into the Indian Ocean in the west end of the Malacca Strait, right? Because Malacca Strait is very strategic strait, right? And a third of them, excuse me, 1/3 of world trade goes through that Malacca Strait. And I've been told that 80% of Australian trade goes through the Malacca Strait. And 80% of China's oil goes through the Malacca Strait. So that creates a Malacca dilemma for China, right? If there's a war between U.S. and China, U.S. could shut down the Malacca Strait, and China is, they won't have their oil, right? So it's a Malacca dilemma, it's a strategic vulnerability. So what are they trying to do to overcome that is they're trying to get to the western end of the Malacca Strait through Myanmar. Because that's the only country from the western end into, right? So that's why they built the pipeline. They built the pipeline. Right? And that's a strategic alternative. The pipeline doesn't replace 80% of the oil, but it gives them a strategic alternative that they did not have before. Right? And also, the Myanmar has, like I said, in the west, 2,000 kilometers, next slide please. Myanmar has 2,000 kilometers of the coastline, right? And that makes it the EEZ, right? The Myanmar maritime territory is almost as big as the land territory and facing into the Indian Ocean, right? So if for China, if it has control of Burma, in which it needs, it's a vital interest, backdoor to the Indian Ocean, and it has a chance to control the western end of the Malacca Strait, right? And then on the eastern end, in the South China Sea, or West Philippine Sea, as my friends from Philippines say, they have the man-made islands. So they have the eastern end, they can control the strait with the man-made South China Sea island, and the western side through Myanmar. Once they control that Malacca Strait, they just have, reduce their vulnerability of the Malacca dilemma. So that's why for China, Myanmar is a must-have. It's a strategic imperative to have Myanmar, right? So that's why Myanmar is so important to China, but meanwhile, the U.S. and the West, they're blind to it. And that's exactly where China would like the West and Australia to forget about it. Don't think about Myanmar at all. More they don't think about it, better for them. So for example, back in 2003, 2004, 2005, right, when China was rising, everybody believed that peaceful rise, right? Everybody starting to believe that peaceful rise. But then China started acting very aggressively in South China Sea. But it was too early because that idea hasn't cemented yet, right? So we were thinking, why is the dragon showing its teeth early? Then you pull back, zoom out, and look at the Southeast Asia. That was when the pipeline started to build in Myanmar. See, China, the Sansi, right, is all about diverting the enemy's attention. So that everybody was running toward the South China Sea, and like everybody's working on it, and they completely forgot about the Western Myanmar. So in 2013, right, when Myanmar was open, and Deputy Commander of Indo-Pacific Command in Hawaii, he was about to come and meet Dawsut in Myanmar. So I had to give him a briefing. And I started briefing him about Myanmar, and then I started talking about this pipeline, and he said, whoa, what pipeline? Deputy Commander of U.S. Pacific Command did not know that there was a pipeline built, and the oil and the gas was flowing in there. So back to strategic blind spot. And what I'm asking this week, as I visit DFAT and all the government offices, is Australia as the regional power to shine the light on that blind spot. Because Australia and U.S., they are very close allies. How close it is, when I was posted at U.S. Pacific Command, we had an Australian exchange officer that I work with. And I was responsible for the combating terrorism plan, and he was responsible for U.S. Homeland Security plan. Australian exchange officer was responsible for United States Homeland Security plan. That's how close we are, right? So therefore, from here, I'm asking the public to alert your government that we have a blind spot here. And Dr. David Steinberg, right? He is an old, he's now in his 90s, but if you're a Burma scholar, you always have to read his books, and he has always said that he was talking specifically about U.S. strategy toward China, the Achilles heel is Burma. So that is the strategic context, right? And we will go into Myanmar. Next, yeah. So next slide, please. Oh, another thing, yeah. Myanmar has Coco Islands, even closer to the Malacca Strait, right? And here it is, 2020, runway is built, right? Next. So everybody keep on thinking about Myanmar as it's just an internal issue, but it's creating all kinds of, next slide, please. Creating all kinds of regional, transnational problems in the region, right? Increased arms trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, right? Myanmar, right? They did the raid on, in Thai police conducted a raid in Bangkok of this drug trafficking kingpin. And they found Miao Aunghlai's family information all over the place. So he's cavorting. And that's why military is no longer, and I hate calling Myanmar military because it offends me. Because I'm a military, right? I don't want to be in the same, those guys are nothing but organized criminal gang. They do not behave like a real military. Real military don't bully and, kill your own people, right? We protect our we're a protector of our citizen, right? So I don't even want to use the word military, but I would have have any other word to use, so sometimes I had to use it. But it drives me crazy. So next. But also, Myanmar coup is weakening our, Southeast Asia, specifically ASEAN unity. ASEAN is divided right now. And ASEAN credibility is being questioned by the entire globe. Is ASEAN really anything, right? Because they can't solve this Myanmar issue. Because some of the mainland Southeast Asian countries, they're a little bit more leaning toward the authoritarianism, are supporting, and then the archipelago, like Indonesia and Malaysia, they're much more, against the military. And of course, 5-point consensus, Min Aung Hlaing went and agreed with the ceremonial way, and then he came back and he didn't do anything, because there's no enforcement mechanism. There's no enforcement mechanism. And right now, a lot of the, international community say, oh, maybe we ought to, have the dialogue or negotiation with the military and, the opposition coalition. But I'm saying, okay, but who is going to enforce the agreement? Who is going to enforce the agreement? Because we know many times he agreed to everything and then he doesn't do anything, right? So until we have the UN peacekeeping force maybe go in and enforce it, short of that, it's kind of a useless exercise. Because he has consistently not lived up to the agreed upon conditions, right? So for international community, we just have to say, yeah, people are willing to talk and people are willing to negotiate. But they need, the enforcement mechanism. Until the international community is able to provide that, is useless exercise. Yeah. So next. But anyway, so because of the ASEAN ineffectiveness, now people are starting to discuss, is the Myanmar issue the end of ASEAN? Right? But we need ASEAN type of mechanism in our region, because all the security challenges that we face in Southeast Asia and the rest of Indo-Pacific is transnational. So no one country can deal with these security challenges. We have to cooperate, and ASEAN has been a mechanism, right, that we use to cooperate in Southeast Asia. And the ASEAN, also ASEAN Plus, we have a lot of ASEAN with the major power, all kinds of cooperation going on. But because of Myanmar issue, this platform has weakened, and even people are saying maybe it's the beginning of end of ASEAN. So that if we don't have ASEAN, we will have a hard time cooperating on a lot of security issues, transnational security issues. So we really need that. But so again, it's not just a domestic issue, right? Not a domestic issue. Next. So here's the refugee flow data. By looking at Thailand, they said 90,000. That's what registered with UNHCR. I have traveled throughout the border, or Thai-Burma border, and it's a million. It is not 90,000. So it is underreported. And many of them, I'm sure many are underreported as well. But nevertheless, what it shows you is the human flow out of, that is creating problem for all the neighboring country and in the larger region. So again, it's not just the internal issue, right? So next. And then there are about 480,000 asylum seekers in 40 countries as well. Next. So that brings us back to, okay, where are we with the status of the resistant revolution? And on the top is strength, right? On the top is strength, and then the left side is military junta, and the right side is the pro-democracy coalition. So starting with the left-hand upper corner, they have support of neighbors, China, India, Thailand, and also they have Russia, right? So I keep on saying to my Ukrainian friends, Russian bombs and bullets are also killing the Burmese and Myanmar people as well, right? Not only in Ukraine, but Russian bombs and bullets are killing Myanmar people as well, right? And then, they're down to just air power. Military just down to air power. I think everybody knows they have an unprecedented level of defections, right? And then every time there's a fight between the military units and the poorly trained, poorly resourced, poorly organized groups, PDFs. Military has more killed in action than the people's side, right? Because my interview of some of the many defectors said 7 out of 10 don't want to be there. So if 7 out of 10 doesn't want to be there, that is not an effective fighting force. And it's not surprising that they have more killed in action than compared to the other side, which is poorly trained, poorly resourced, poorly organized, right? So SACM, right, Special Advisory Council on Myanmar, led by Yang Lee, they have done a really good study. They have shown that military junta control less than half the country. The resistant coalition control more than half the country and is growing every day. Growing every day. Right? But the thing is, I will come back to the witnesses later. That story is not being told in the international. They don't know. They don't know that. They don't know that. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Oh, go back up. Go back up. Go back up. On the people side, on the right side, strength up above. We as in IRI did a survey, and it shows that 90% of the people reject the military still. And then out of that, it's actually to be 91%. 30% of the respondents said that they will risk everything to remove the military. 30% of 54 million people. That's a lot of people. And 90% of 54 million people reject the military. Right? So that's our data. And like I said, the people side control more than half the country. And they have done a really good job, and in my interview I have said that. They have done a really good job with the tactical level cooperation between different units. But we need to they're starting to show improvement in the operational level, meaning like across the country, not just next to each other, doing better. And we just need to get to we just need to get better at it. It's not that they're not doing it. We just need to improve for us to get to the tipping point, right? And the international support, like Burma Act. Burma Act, of course, is the United States, right? I think that, people have been asking, like, where's the money? But I think in Burma Act, one of the most important feature of Burma Act is recognition of ethnic armed organization, EAOs. That's invaluable. They have been fighting for over 70 years and never got that recognition. And now it's recognized. So it lent a lot of legitimacy to them. See, and now when they negotiate for the federal democracy, they will be in a better position, a much better position. And that's a healthier way to negotiate, actually, for everybody, not just the ethnic armed group, but for the Burma majority as well. So I think that feature, even if we don't get the money, that is really, really important, I think, invaluable development. International. Why? It's because of this Burma Act was made possible by diaspora cooperating. Different people, I know there were a lot of disagreement while they were doing it, but different people took different action, and it all come together and make that possible. So this is the example of, it's very difficult in the United States to pass a law like that, right? And especially Burma is very little known. And for the diaspora to get it like that, it's required Chin community building. The young people, and the 88 generation and the older generation, all working together to make that possible. So when we cooperate and put aside a lot of our differences, this type of success is possible. So there are two things that I think that we have to do in this fight going forward is we have to be able to communicate well of what Myanmar's story is, and then to cooperate. I cooperate with people every day that I don't like. and I don't trust, but I have a mission, right? So during World War II, Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt cooperated. And Stalin and Roosevelt and Churchill, they don't like each other. They don't trust each other. As you can see, we have Cold War afterwards. But nevertheless, at that moment, they have the common enemy, Hitler. And they put some of their differences aside and find a common ground to work on it. And same thing in U.S. The U.S. diaspora there is, they try to find a common area. And there were a lot of back and forth bickering and fighting, but they came together to pass that bill. Right? And diaspora, in this fight, why we're winning right now is because of the diaspora. Diaspora across the globe is mobilized. So I go to, I was 2 weeks ago in Queens, New York, talking to diaspora. There was an 81-year-old woman with arthritis, right? She's a Burmese American, and she's on Social Security. She said, I will never go back to Myanmar, right? But I want to do something. I have to do something. So she cooks every weekend and sell and get the money and donate to the cause, right? And that day she cooked curry shrimp, so she has to peel curry with her arthritis hand. But she did it, right? And then I went to South Korea earlier this year in February. Yeah, there are young men that stand right outside of the train station in the dead of winter. And they were shaking. And they have been there ever since the coup, asking for donation. And especially Korea, too. Korea, a lot of the diaspora are blue-collar workers. They work in really hard jobs in the factory. But Korea has the highest rate of contribution to the fight, and they give. They work really hard, and these are, factory jobs, and they give them money. Right? And they stand in the cold and shaking. It was bitter cold. Korea is very cold in the wintertime. And they did it. So, so just like right here, right? And I have, I've been traveling through Melbourne, Canberra, and Brisbane, and now in Sydney. And all of you are so inspiring. You inspire me. And that's why we're winning is because of all of our work. Everybody keep on coming up to me and say they thank me, but I'm just only one person. It's all of us working together is making this possible. Making this possible. It's not about the one person. It's about all of us. And that's why I say a lot of people keep on coming. We need one person. No, I think this model is much more healthy. We don't want one person to have to shoulder all about the democracy in Myanmar for 54 million people. All of us do what we need to do, right? All of us do what we need to do to cooperate. All of us put aside some of our disagreement or dislike of people and cooperate. Because we all have one goal, restore democracy in Myanmar, federal democracy in Myanmar, right? And the one enemy, do not do his work for his work. When you're not cooperating, you're doing his work, your enemy's work, right? So find a way. And we have, just like Stalin and just like Roosevelt and Churchill, right? So do that. Okay, and the weaknesses at the bottom. Back to my slide. The military weaknesses is the people's strength, right? People's strength become their weaknesses. But on the coalition side, thank you. Sorry, I've been speaking a lot, so my throat is raw. Like I said, communication. We need to get our word out. We need to make sure that people understand the Myanmar story, right? But not as a victim. We're no longer a victim, we're a victor. We're winning, right? Why people want to help Ukraine? Because from the outset, the Ukraine message was, we can do this. We can beat the Russian, right? We just need a little bit of help here, right? But you can't say, like, oh my gosh, poor Myanmar people, please help us. Nobody wanted to help. It just is. It's just a reality. It shouldn't be, but it's a reality. So you got to start acting like a victim. We have shown you, right, with a very little help from international community other than the international pressure, right? The actual resources are coming from you all, and then also people from inside. And we have put Myanmar military on its heel, right? It's collapsing, right? Because one of the things, I have interviewed the battalion commander that has defected. By the way, last month, the whole battalion defected. And the 2 battalion commanders said they were told to go into Kachin to fight. They said, no, we don't want to fight, so they were put in jail, right? And then so I was interviewing the battalion commander, and he said, a normal battalion is 800 people. Right? But Myanmar military never had that. They had approximately about 400, half of it, right? But battalion commander said he's down to 150. And out of the 150, only half is combat ready, combat defective. So each battalion is down to 75 people, right? You did that. All of us did that. All of us did that, right? So you need to tell that story. We did it. We just need a little bit help so that we can get to the tipping point faster. We can get to the tipping point on our own, but it will take a little bit longer. But if we get your help from other communities and other countries, we can go faster, right? Right? And then also, if we cooperate, thank you. Right, I was saying, people keep on asking me, when is this going to end? I said, whenever we are able to cooperate, right? That's why I said victory is in the hand of us, not in the hand of Myanmar, because he's collapsing on his own. So how long will it take for all of you to cooperate to get to the mass? We call it in the military, one of the 9 principles of war is called mass. That's only possible if we all cooperate and put aside the differences. You have to cooperate to get to the mass, and that's where that will be the tipping point, right? So. Next. Okay, I have time. Oh, okay. No, this is fine. Yeah, go back. Go to the. Yeah, so people talk about ethnic armed organization. Also, our cooperation has to be with the ethnic armed organization as well as ethnic diaspora, minority diaspora. I keep on saying, diaspora has to cooperate. You can't ask people inside to cooperate if you're not cooperating yourself. That's hypocrisy. Right? If you want people inside to cooperate, you got to lead by example, cooperating among the diaspora, right? Across every organization, old, young, different minority, women, men, right? All of them need to cooperate to get to that principle mass, right? So here, some of the ethnic armed group that are directly cooperating with NUG and PDFs and all that on the green side, K3C, right? And then the middle one, they are not publicly saying they're cooperating, but they are behind the scene helping. And then the red has stayed kind of away, but they did not go with the military request, SAC's request to stop selling arms to the PDFs. So I would say it's a different level of cooperation is happening, and this has never been done in the history of Myanmar before. So this is an amazing fight, right? So next. Does everybody know DIP? How many people know DIP? Yeah. So when we look at the history, historical winning revolution, 3 elements keep on appearing. I coined it DIP: defection, international pressure, and people support. None of them is about firepower, right? None of them require firepower. It's about smart power and ability to communicate, communication power. So I took that DIP and then I layer it with the Burma Act because that's something that just happened. So I was also presenting to the U.S. Congress what under the Burma Act they can do, that is a real concrete action that they can do under Burma Act. Because Burma Act is non-lethal support, right? Non-lethal support. And non-lethal support align with DIP. So then, next slide, please. So next. So for under defection, deportation, like I said, we have had an unprecedented level of defection. But like I said also, 7 out of 10 they don't want to be there, they want to come out. But because they don't have support, defectors are the least supported group of people in this in this fight, right? So many of them are told, don't come out, we can't help you. So stay there. Right? When Australia said that they will be accepting defectors, it shook the military. Right? Because defection is a better way of get to the winning. Because we're not about killing, we're about winning. Right? So if you focus on winning, how can you win? You can kill the enemy, yeah, that's one way, but you can also pull them to your side. And according to history, that was much more successful than other way. See? So some of the things they can start to do is for those that has already been defected, some of them are idle. They're not being utilized. So, having like a security sector reform, next. SSR, DDR is down there. DDR is demobilization, disarmament, rehabilitation of ex-combatant, and the SSR is security sector reform. And getting a group of those guys ready to be a part of the security sector reform. Because, who knows more about the military than them, right? And then getting them ready. Because we want to remove the military, but we're still going to have a lot of soldiers, and we don't want to do like Iraq and then just get rid of it. It become ISIS. That's what we did in Iraq, is we dismissed all the, Iraqi soldiers, and now they formed ISIS, and now we have a problem, right? So we want to do a good job with the DDR and SSR against the military this time. I know EAO always get to hear that DDR, SSR from the military before, but this is going to be DDR, SSR on the military, So, and then also, like I said, diplomatic support to take on the asylum, those guys, right? It could be one of it doesn't cost anything, really. It doesn't cost additional funding to accept the defectors as asylum. So having that diplomatic policy would be really, really helpful. Next. Next. And then, of course, full implementation of sanction, because I've been told there are many of the Myung Lai and his general's family living in Australia, United States. They have got under the radar of the sanction and fully support them. And then, especially for Australia. Australia is a part of the Quad. So you have India in there. Really, India and Thailand is really, really important because they are neighbors. And in any humanitarian assistance to get into the country, you need them, their buy-in, right? Their support, right? So having like Australia and U.S. really work with those, because Thailand is an ally of United States. And Australia is, and India is in the Quad. So, working with them, educating them would be very, very helpful to change their policy. Because I was briefing some of the senior level Indian officials that are really concerned about Myanmar, right? And when I told them that the resistant coalition control more than half the country, they didn't know. Because they're getting briefing from Myung Lai every day. So they said, okay, then we have to change our policy, because they thought, well, military has control of the country, so we have to work with them. Oh, no. You got to talk to the coalition because they control more than half the country. So I'm back to my strategic communication. We have to have a coherent, consistent communication plan. And right now, communication is more important than ever before. Right? I have said in my interview 75, 25 armed struggle, 75 non-lethal action. Yeah. Next. And so under the people's support, right, you can get humanitarian assistance and then getting aid for like confidence measure between different groups, support for that. Women empowerment. That is not about women, ideological women's right. It's about operational requirement. Our data show that 65% of the resistant forces all across the globe, women. Made up of, and you look around right now, women, right? And they truly understand non-lethal action. And they're the one, their work has, been the one that keep people coming along. They're in the community because anthropologically, women are the glue of societies. So if you can't cooperate between people, groups, in Southern Philippines, when I worked on it, the problem said, we send women and it improved, the cooperation between groups. In Liberia, right? Lima Gabowi, the Liberia had 10 years of civil war conflict, and it's between the Christian and the Muslims. And the Lima Gabowi, who's Christian, she just couldn't take it anymore. So she went to the Muslim mosque, and she started working together, and they all together pushed the men to come up with to end the civil war. And as a result, she won the Nobel Prize. So in this particular case, 65%, our data is showing 65% of the TownHall today is women. Women. So look around in your organization. If you don't have 50-50 women, you don't have the full, you're not operating at the 100% level. 100% level. Because we need to use all the human resources. We have to use it's not about being, idealistic about women's rights. It's about we need everything. Right? And that's human resources we're not utilizing all. If you don't have them in every level, decision maker level, planning level, strategy level, at the implementation level, we should be looking around and say, I love it right here. We don't have women and men together, something is missing. Right? So it's really important. And then, so this is kind of a quick menu of things that is non-lethal that U.S. can do under the Burma Act, but it doesn't have to be the U.S. Any other country that wants to contribute to the fight and to restore democracy in Myanmar, non-lethal way, you can help this way. So this is the menu available to anybody who wants to contribute. And it goes with DIP. So I went to U.S. Congress and said, what you provide, if you provide it fully, you can get to the tipping point because of DIP. Because of DIP. Yeah. So, but anyway, so again, back to being able to tell the story, we really need consistent, coherent, strategic communication plan and cooperation amongst all of us. We got to lead by example, by showing people how we cooperate in spite of our differences or different ideas. Thank you very much, and aloha.
Jesu miyaji tinပါတယ်အမဆိုမနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ကတော့ကျွန်တော်လည်းကျွန်တော်ကသိရမ88 generation တွေကပဲကျွန်တော်တို့ ਨੇ တိတ်မကွာဘူးဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်မအနေနဲ့ခေါ်အခုလိုမျိုးအားလုံးရှင်းပြပေးတဲ့အတွက်လည်းကျွန်တော်တို့အတွက်အများကြီးဘူးတူတာရပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ Q&A မသွားခင်မှာကျွန်တော်တို့အမလုပ်နေတဲ့ program လေး3ခုရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်တစ်ခုကတော့Initiative for Victory ပေါ့အဓိကကတော့ကျွန်တော်တိုင်းရင်းသားခုနပြောသွားတဲ့ Federal ပြည်ထောင်စုတည်ဆောက်ရေးအတွက်တိုင်းရင်းသားတွေကြားထဲမှာနားလည်မှုတည်ဆောက်ရေးကူညီမှုလုပ်ငန်းတွေအတွက်အနည်းပညာပေးမှုလုပ်ငန်းတွေကိုလှုပ်ဆောင်နေတဲ့လုပ်ငန်းစဉ်တစ်ခုရှိပါတယ်နောက်တစ်ခုကတော့ DFC ပေါ့နော် Democracy Free Connect ပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒီလုပ်ငန်းစဉ်ကခုနပြောတဲ့ CDN လှုပ်လာတဲ့ တက်ဆိုကြတဲ့တက်မတော်သားတွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ပညာရေးအသက်မွေးဝမ်းကြောင်းကူညီတဲ့လုပ်ငန်းစဉ်တွေရှိပါတယ်အဲ့အတွက်လည်းကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီနေ့မှာဒီ factor တွေအတွက် donation လေးကျွန်တော်တို့ကောက်နေပါတယ်အဲ့တော့ရောက်လာတဲ့ညီကိုမောင်နှမများလည်းတက်နိုင်သမျှကူညီပေးနိုင်ဖို့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒါဟိုအသိပေးပါတယ်နောက်တစ်ခုကတော့ empower မြန်မာပေါ့နော်အဓိက empower ဟာကဲလူသားချင်းဆိုင်ရာမျိုးသမီးတွေ program ပေါ့အဲ့ဒါတွေကိုကျွန်တော်မမွန်စင်ရလည်းအင်္ဂလိပ်လိုအဲ့ဒါလေးနည်းဖတ်ပေးပါပြီးရင်ကျွန်တော် Q&A ကိုဆက်သွားပါမယ်ခင်ဗျဟုတ်ကဲ့ကျေးဇူးပါ
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gonaon, and thank you so much for explaining about the dip, which is very, very important movement for the, achieving, accelerating to the victory. So as Gonaon has already explained, there are 3 programs that Dr. Byrd is quite passionate about. The first one is Initiative for Victory. It's I4V. Initiative for Victory to facilitate and support and to establish collaboration between all actors involved in this Spring Revolution so that our revolution can be accelerated to victory, to provide technological mediations, like much more, educations that needs and advocacy and all things. So that's the first program. The second program is called Democracy Force Connect. It's DFC. So Dr. Byrd had explained a lot about the DIP, and then which is one of the most important factor is in defections. So supporting the defector soldier and police officers are very important to encourage more defections, as she has already explained about the DDR and SSR. Like we need to encourage it, so that's the only way to accelerate to the victory. So therefore, this program, as she has already explained, is the least funded program in this revolution. So we need your support, we need your donation, we need your understanding and also media awareness so that we can support those defected soldiers and police officers to feel secure, move around in our community, get involved in this democracy movement, as well as, we got to start providing them the education so that they can, provide for themselves for their future. The last program is very close to my heart, Empower Her Myanmar. Empower Her Myanmar. So that's program is, if you look around that Dr. Byrd has already acknowledged us that there are about more than 65% of women that are involved behind, out at the front, cooking in every way. So it's very important. So we need to give each other support and get more women involved, work together, get them more involved in the decision-making processes. So thank you so much, Dr. Byrd. So we will be receiving all the donations and gifts, and, your generosity is so important. So please see Auntie Nila over there. If you could, please donate. Thank you so much. And I like to, I like to say thank you and acknowledge and, really appreciate your presence here today. Thank you.